Charlie, it's so great to sit down with you. And I feel the need for speed today for some reason. It must be the race cars behind you. So right off the hop, Charlie Bedard, you're the CEO of BeneOffice Canada. Tell me about the cars. What's up with the F1 cars behind you?
Sure. Okay. So one thing, I guess, in different studies that I've done is Formula One has always caught my attention. I'm involved in huge in insuring automotive and racing industry, but with Formula One, it's about the team. That the team is so critical to the success of the driver and of the entire team. And so for us, I mean, that's sort of one of the things we keep around the office, so that the staff always think about it's the team, and don't kill the driver kind of thing. Like, make sure that the wheels stay on and that we can go at full speed. So that's why we have a few of them throughout the office, as a little reminder of teamwork. So teamwork at a fast pace.
That's a great metaphor. And the pit crew is just as important as the driver, even if the driver sometimes gets the glory and gets to raise the trophy over their head at the end of the race. But it takes a team to win every single time. And that's often the difference maker, right? And in a matter of seconds, it could be the pit crew that made that difference. So that's a really cool metaphor. I'm glad you shared that. So you're in London, Ontario, Charlie?
So London, Ontario is where our head office is located, and the staff as well. So.
Okay, cool. And I always pick up on the environment around you. So I also noticed behind you on the wall there seems to be what looks like could be key rings or something for work orders, but you don't run an auto shop. So again, piquing my curiosity here, what's that all about?
So basically what those are is they're not key hooks, but what they are is in a sense like work orders. So basically, visual reminders of requests that have come in to be handled in a queue, and which ones I'm responsible for. So, we took down the overloading list that was there at the moment, so for the video, but that's what we do. Again, that's another thing around the office is visual reminders of tasks that need to be top of mind. So.
Well, that's the Toyota way, and there's lots of folks in the Lean and Six Sigma profession and practice that preach that and live by that. So that's great. You've got those visual reminders. Do you guys use whiteboards? Are you guys big advocates of whiteboarding? And
yes, we really use both. We have the pin boards, but we also have the clear whiteboards, so that when nothing's on it, you just don't really even notice them. They're sort of some type of plexiglass style. So, but yeah.
A lot of people are doing it's like a whiteboard wall now, where you can get this special paint. You just paint the wall and it rubs off. It's really effective for people to just go up and write down their thoughts at any point in time. And you don't have to worry about mounting something to the wall. You just kind of have unlimited space to work with. How many people in your office, Charlie?
So for BeneOffice, it sort of, expands. It's like an accordion as to, depending on what stage that we're at, it'll go up and down. And since I'm involved, that I own multiple companies, we'll actually sometimes borrow staff, analysts, underwriters from some of the other teams. So it will expand. Certain days it might look like there's just 2 or 3 of us. Other days it looks like there's 8. Depending on who's pulled into the project, kind of thing. So
cool.
Plus outside resources we use as well. So.
Well, and so let's get into that on the company side. So you're the president CEO of Bedard company, or Bedard group of companies.
Yeah.
Sitting under that is BeneOffice, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So what we've done is, for the sake of the insurance brokers that would use our product, BeneOffice Canada has been set up as completely its own company. So the strength sometimes of the financial, of keeping the gas in the tank, as I will say, is it might pull on the sister company, right? But BeneOffice Canada, we set it up strictly as a standalone. The long-term objective is that I'm more just sitting on the advisory board to keep making the company think like a customer. So I'm a customer of the BeneOffice product. And that's sort of where I want my forte of both experience and being the end user to be the fastest feedback. So, but BeneOffice strictly back in 1997, we set it up as its own standalone company. Software itself has been being used by the Bedard group of companies since 2010. So about 11 years there. So it's a proven model. So 1997 was basically, let's move it from our servers to the cloud. And then basically let's make it that we flip the switch, and we've basically been adding brokers into the system, but we're pacing ourselves. We're not in a rush. We're not under any kind of, outside investor pressure at this time. So we're just taking people on, making sure that that it's working for how they need it to. So yeah, and a little bit of a waiting list right at the current time as well.
So that's always good to have. It's always good to have a waiting list or a queue when you're in the startup space. So it sounds like you've got your own internal incubator going on. So you're proving out the technology and using the systems before it was even released to the public. How long has it been available? And then we'll get into what BeneOffice actually is. How long has it been actually available to consumers?
So it was last year, the beginning of the year, that we rolled out to start adding on brokers. Initially, there was 2 larger brokers that came into the system, so we knew they would push the system hard, and that's a little bit of what we wanted. Is rather than a high number of people and little tweaks needing to be done, let's go that way. Some have asked whether it can be reserved to just a key few across the country versus them all.
They're already asking for exclusivity.
Yeah, so that's not the objective of what we're trying to do. We're trying to give back to the industry here to give the tools to whether they're one person to really as large as they will go. Our original thought was that it would be the 1 to 15 person brokerage operation. To our surprise, we definitely have caught the attention of some of the largest players. But it's geared to be able to go to any size, right? So
so it can scale and ramp up or ramp down based on the size of the organization. So let's get into the origin of BeneOffice. So what is BeneOffice? Is it just strictly an employee benefits platform? I'll let you, in your own words, explain what it is.
Sure. So BeneOffice, what we wanted to do when we originally sat down. So one of the original fellows that worked with me on scaling it out was basically, he saw as an end customer what we were able to do and the volume of customers we were able to handle. And so what we want to do is similar to how you use Microsoft Outlook, and now Microsoft Teams, all these different Microsoft products. We want it to be like on your desktop the same way, which we wanted it rather than Microsoft Office. Let's go BeneOffice. It's the benefits platform for brokers. And that's how the name came about. It's, a lot of names have been chosen, right? And so it's getting harder and harder with so many companies being created every day. But that's where our focus was. So benefits office platform, BeneOffice. And and so then what it is the strongest, I guess, part of it is the employee benefits operation system for brokerage firms. And then it's got the group retirement, group pension aspect to it as well, which is a very easy fit with the employee benefits. Then the next piece that we've got in there is the cross-selling with the individual life insurance, disability, critical illness, and also a very quick resource for if somebody needed to do individual health or dental or travel, action-packed with all the quick resources, because that's not typically where an employee benefits broker is focusing. But when they're asked, let's hold the client all the way. Let's quickly be able to give them those resources. And so the broker looks like the hero then. Our goal is to, some of the tools within take multiple days and weeks worth of work, process it in 5 hours. We're trying to get the broker that he can go back out and be the relationship to celebrity of his practice, and basically the tools to start doing more and more of the administrative crunching and give a better lifestyle to the staff. So my staff, that use the tool, I got to say, I think they've had a pretty good lifestyle with, like trips around the world regularly without worrying about their job or is their work done. Because the platform as well can be accessed from anywhere in the world, right? So.
Well, that's fantastic. And yeah, you mentioned before it's cloud-based. So that's so important, especially now in the world we're working in today. You said something there about being able to do group benefits or employee benefits in BeneOffice, but you can also cross-sell into the life and health or life and living benefits products, which I think is really neat. So with that, and people who might be watching this podcast, I don't know if there's non-industry people who watch this podcast, but if I say a top up, most of us know what a top up is, because employee benefits, for example, critical illness or disability doesn't give you 100% of your income necessarily, and a lot of employee plans don't cover that. A lot of people don't know that. So if I'm understanding correctly, within BeneOffice, then are there triggers, for example, that would alert the broker to cross sell?
So we're continuously creating more, I guess, smart tools. Okay. Currently, what it does right now is it makes it very simple for the cross selling to take place. So one example, that one broker that went out to use it, it was a small group benefit plan, 6 employees. Okay. So when he went, he presented that. And then part of the presentation was about key person life insurance, personal life insurance, and disability. He came back with multiple individual sales plus the group sale. And he actually increased his revenue of commission on that sale by over 1,000%. Now, those are the kinds of returns that catch people's attention, kind of thing. So, but for the end customer, so when we did a little survey with the end customer about their experience with what this individual, because it was outside of myself, how did they feel? Well, they were an accounting firm. They were thrilled because what they said is they didn't realize the gaps. They're focused on their customers, not focused on their own needs. Whereas they said when it showed it so simply, they said that they instantly knew that they needed to top up their key person. One partner needed individual life insurance. When they saw the pricing and how it worked in the illustration, they were like, "Oh, wow, this is simpler than I've seen it explained before." And then some disability top up, because that's one thing that was pointed out in the report, is either they needed to dramatically increase the group LTD maximum, which affects the unit rates on the entire group for 1 or 2. The recommendation was economically, the individual insurance was a smarter way to go with refund of premium rider added in. So it was a real win for the customer. So when you get that kind of feedback, it's actually quite exciting. You know that your formula is working. What brokers are asking us, which we didn't really expect to this degree, they're really asking us a lot more. We love it. Now, could we just touch one button and the whole thing does all of our thinking process for us, kind of thing? So, you know what? We were trying to give them their own unique, sort of style in each one. But that's one of the things now that we're working on, is to say, okay, you want a button for do it for you, kind of thing, and with an explanation of how we came up with that recommendation as well, so that they're protected that way. But that's it's going to be continuously evolving, right? And it's all about underwriting it right, and the agent being able to present. So, well,
when you're getting user feedback like that's so valuable, right? So that's a sign that your users are engaged and getting value from the platform. So benefits platform for brokers, and BeneOffice. I see the combination of 2 names there, and it's a really creative and memorable name. So as far as the problem that you're solving, is this something that exists out there today? Is this the first of its kind in Canada, would you say? Or
so we've had a lot of uptake. So I think a lot of people have been searching for a long time. So like even with like the LinkedIn profile that, we ended up with, over 10,000 people connected in like 12 months. Okay. So that's a fast uptake. And a lot of contact from just that single platform. And it wasn't really sort of the planned objective. It's sort of what happened. And then it gets a little exciting, right? When you see the numbers keep popping up, right? But I had searched for years looking for something there are a lot of different pieces of software out there. There's a lot of commercial insurance applications that people try to band-aid to work for employee benefits. It truly doesn't fit the mold correctly. A lot of US software, but again, different coverages in the States versus Canada. So I guess after years of searching, I thought, darn it, I guess I'm going to have to spend my own money and make this thing happen. So that's why we built originally the platform out, was because we couldn't find a true operation system for employee benefits that fit Canadian brokers, and that would also do everything from your little like family style business of 2-3 lives to some of the world's largest companies, because that's the scale of client base that's been through our system, is some of the world's largest, but also the local family business down the street. So I wouldn't have spent the money doing what we're doing if I could have found it. I'll tell you that. So
really cool. Yeah. Well, and that's common amongst founders, right? They usually stumble upon a problem because they're a user, they're in the space, they understand, the journey of the client well enough, and not everybody has the will and the skill to jump in and roll up their sleeves and do that and make it possible. The fact that you have 10,000 followers within 12 months tells me that you've stumbled upon or created something special. I shouldn't say stumbled upon, but you're doing something special, and the market's telling you something. You mentioned a couple times financing this on your own.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies that we sit down with at Insurtech Canada are at different stages of their journey. Some are in the fundraising seed to Series A stage, and there's a shortage of venture capital in Canada today to fund seed to Series A companies. A lot of companies in the Insurtech space, there's a lot of Series B money available, but the company's already ramped to a certain point at that stage. And you're in the camp of, it sounds like, bootstrapping with your own funds, and that's a common theme actually on Insurtech Canada podcast. Is we talk to a lot of founders that had the grit and were willing to take the risk to bootstrap because they believed in the idea that much. And I want to just kind of give you a chance to talk about that from your own perspective, because I think a lot of people, especially outsiders, and I want to encourage outsiders to come into the Insurtech space, think that they need private money, they need venture capital, someone else backing them to get in and to build something that's commercially viable. And I talked to a number of founders who are doing the opposite of that. And that doesn't mean that venture capital doesn't play a valuable role. And it's just about timing sometimes. But you really have to believe in what you've created to be able to bootstrap it.
Yeah.
What did you go down the path of looking for outside funding, or did you always know this was something that you wanted to?
So what we did there is, so currently there's 4 of us involved in the financing side of it. And basically, even though I'm involved with my own separate companies, I am a believer of how I built my organizations was literally from scratch. You mean, so the scenario where you hear a lot of people, back in the early days, it was, do I take the $20 and have supper tonight, or do I save it for the drive to Toronto tomorrow? You mean, and hopefully I make some money to come back. And you mean, so I've been there, and as funny as it sounds today saying that, it was scary as heck. You mean, but yet it was the fuel that caused you to think this worked. And so with BeneOffice, that was a little bit. I think some of the other fellows here, they might think I'm torturing them some days by not just throwing in more and more. But what we've got is right now, one of the things we did is for the staff, we wanted some of the ones that were involved to have a piece of the action, and so we did that. Then they realized what really bootstrapping means, and it means like maybe not living the lifestyle you were living like a couple of years ago, but it's created focus, and it's made made some realize that they're not owner material, or they're not owner material in, let's say, a startup type company. So it's just like how we've pulled on staffing from my other entities as required. Same thing with this. It's sort of like, okay, so we expand it. Okay, we'll pull back, and it'll be, maybe a couple of us now holding the reins for the long end. Looking at outside money, we got from the Ontario government, the Ontario Centers of Excellence. We received an award from them early on stage. So I tried to do things, different than what my ordinary path would be, because I thought maybe the tech world is a little bit different. End of day, I'm not seeing it as that much different. Some of the other money that is maybe readily available, there's conditions with it. And so what we wanted is, we don't want to have it where there's certain providers or people involved that are going to restrict that it doesn't work 100% right for the client. It makes a recommendation based on where the money came from. So, that didn't necessarily go well with some of the bigger players of our industry. But I was their wrong guy, right? That I wasn't the guy to cut out and say, this carrier only gets, this high risk case, but all the good cases go to certain other carriers. So we're going this route. We do have offers, but I think those people that have put in some offers to participate realize it would be to participate for maybe faster growth, more marketing. And they see it's going to be done in a very much an underwriting style versus fast money, fast growth. Let's dump. That's not the objective here. To protect the actual users that use the software, and that's what a lot of the end users that have talked to me is their greatest fear of startup companies is that they're going to be sold, and the new owners are going to put up pricing that they no longer can afford to use the tool. Now that they help prove that the tool is valuable. So there's good and bad of money. No money's free money, in my opinion. That even when I'm lending money, the game is not to lose that money, right? You just got to understand it will take time, and you can't give up, or you lost your money, right? So
sure, yeah. So. And there's definitely, I think anybody who's been around business long enough knows there's a difference between a founder-led company, and some founders stay on 20, 30 years, 40 years. And then when there's an eventual exit, if other ownership comes in and it's not the founders, there's always a difference. And sometimes it's better. Sometimes, the founder gets in the way of certain improvements because there's attachments to the original vision. Yeah. But the goals and objectives can sometimes change, and there are cases where it's moved away from the client, and it becomes the purpose of the company becomes about something else. So
on that point, the one thing that where I want to be is basically I want to have it. Even our head programmer, we've already had the discussions. Like, we want to get to the advisor part. Doesn't mean we won't roll up our sleeves and go right at it as needed. But basically so that it does create its own formula, that it's not one individual dependent in any way as to what the vision is. So it becomes a team sort of growing vision. And that should give it more of a, ongoing, lifelong, purpose for the end consumer, right? So
and it becomes its own organism at that point. It operates independently of the owners or founders. Which any great organization should do. That's a worthy cause and a goal to have. What would you say, Charlie, makes BeneOffice special? What makes BeneOffice different from anything else that's out there?
Well, I guess one thing is the behind the scenes proven model. So some of the results that we've already been able to see, both for myself using it and some others, that part's sort of thrilling. Is some serious financial results for the end user of the product. The other thing is that it isn't like sort of on a fast track to make it to a flip. It's investors might not always love hearing that, but that's one thing. It's the insurance industry. Was built over time to be as solid as what it is, and since this is geared to an insurance product that affects so many end consumers. So it's not just the owners of the businesses, but all their employees. We want to make sure the formula is right and it doesn't crack. So we've even been asked about, will we jump to the US or jump to Europe? I mean, that's you always map out different ideas of, if that day came, how would that look? But clearly, the Canadian operation will remain a Canadian operation. Anything that's done in a different scope would be set up as its own separate standalone entity for the market that it's serving, right? Everyone remains focused on their neighborhood, right? So.
Right. That's a very community focused mentality. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of brokers. Is it fair to say brokers, you mentioned earlier, the 1 to 15 size employee broker with 1 to 15 agents within their business, is that your target audience? Is that the segment you're trying to grow with the most right now?
We thought that would be the fastest uptake. I mean, is because they've got to compete against all these larger brokers that are getting bought out by, lots of them by U.S. brokerage operations. So that's what we were thinking, originally in our planning. But actually, what it's seeing is that it's all sizes, and so that's exciting. Our pricing model was that if you're a bigger operation, you're already built into the pricing discount for being substantially larger. So we had that built into some of the formulas. So I guess it's working, a little better than what we've planned, right? So
very cool. What's on the horizon for BeneOffice? Where do you see the company going in the next 3 years? Talk a little bit about the vision long term.
So when we look at the employee benefits industry, one of the things is that the drug cards are controlled by basically 3 companies.
Yeah.
That's sort of a little bit what we're seeing here, is that for the platform of what we're doing, because we're not competing against the brokers here. So we're a tool in the middle of the broker and the insurance companies. Right. So we want to be sort of looked at similar to the drug cards in the industry, where we're that service provider that keeps everybody happy, efficiency for the underwriters. We also want to delve deeper in what the people in the insurance companies also need. And one of the areas there is not necessarily just the executives at the top, but what about the ones that are really crunching out doing the work? So the claims adjudicators, the life DI, CI, adjudicators, a communication model to the broker to make that whole flow go better. Because if it goes better, the customer is more kept up to date. They've got a live local guy to talk to, not just a letter or email, that they receive from an adjudicator. So that's one of the areas that we've had a lot of uptake through the insurance companies from the staff of the insurance companies. And so I think that, some of the feedback I've gotten, they're really hoping, some of the employees, that they're really hoping that this also can make a difference for them. And that excites me, coming from originally way back, 33 years ago, head office underwriter. As you look at that and think, I remember there were certain things that if they could have been fixed, because sometimes the disconnect is truly, the spot between the insurance company, the broker, and the client that ends up giving the client a bad end experience. So that's I guess a longer term sort of vision. Right. So
connecting all the stakeholders. So that's an interesting place to be. And it sounds like you're a bridge builder, right? To use a metaphor.
Yeah.
And connecting. I was going to say the 3, but there's probably more than that, because there could be service providers outside. It really is funny that no one's really cracked that nut yet. No one's really focused on that. And so again, just to kind of reiterate, it sounds like you're really onto something special here. What is the feedback that you're getting from users, in your MVP phase? Because what I wanted to go into right now was, because you had this internal incubator, you tested the system, and you probably broke it a few times internally or went through enhancements. Now you've got this in the hands of
a few programmers.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. And now you've got it outside of the company, and that's a leap of faith always, right? To put it in the hands of someone else to drive it, what you built, which worked for your organization. Has that created any challenges for you? Like, are there challenges that are coming back from the end users, where you've sat back and as a founder said, well, I really didn't consider that. That was a blind spot for us.
Interestingly enough, right now, what we've run into more is like just sort of some relief.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And some of the operations people, and reporting available that the ones that have been working with, let's say, commercial insurance brokers, I guess the full disclosure, say, you know what, here's a copy of reports from the referrals that came over, and it gives everything broken down, you know, what comp came in. That's what we've run into sort of right now. We've had a very, so far it's a very friendly bunch that are into the system. And I think everyone knows that, that it's about building. So at this given moment, I would say no. I think the more we go, further where there's less communication one-on-one. So right now, I got to admit, the communications, it's sort of like how you and I met, strangers, we would have known one another crossing the street kind of thing. But then once you got in communication, you kept the communication going. So long before, even in onboarding, that there was already that rapport that was there. And so, that's what's made it that maybe there's feedback that we're taking that we're not even noticing because we think we're just having a conversation, but nothing that's sort of stopped any of the programmers cold turkey. I guess my team in the brokerage world is probably the harshest and the strongest, in coming at us, because it's all about reputation, right? And so they want to make sure that there's no glitches. So that's I got a pretty strong team of technical ability, and they're giving the programmers direct feedback, right? To say this needs to be faster. You know what I mean? And so I think the word faster is the key word, right? So
okay, and we have to temper our expectations sometimes as founders. And I say, like, when I launched in my own personal experience, launched my first startup, I thought I was going to be a sprinter, and I quickly turned into a marathon runner. And I think, especially, we see headlines, and it's tempting to chase those shiny objects and be that founder who, went to an IPO in their 3rd to 5th year or exited the company. But that reality is that doesn't happen in most cases, and that shouldn't be your driving force or your motivation. It should be about the problem that you're solving. And on that note, what advice would you give to founders that are coming into the space of Insurtech? Because we're seeing a ton of new companies coming out. We're seeing a lot of activity in the Insurtech space. Last year in the United States, 20% of the IPOs, or I believe this was 2020, but 20% of the IPOs were Insurtech companies. So we're going to see more and more of this as an industry who is behind. But what advice would you give, knowing the challenges of this industry? What advice would you give to founders?
Yeah, it's not easy, right? And it's the same as any business. It's just maybe not everybody always realize that, what the owners of companies have gone through to build any business. Yeah. But definitely not easy. Definitely everything's going to take time. So you could be sitting, 30 years, and then you look like a overnight sensation in the 31st year. No one knew you existed for the 30 before that, right? So if you reinvent yourself in the 31st year, but financially, you just got to be prepared for the financial strain of in continuous investing, right? And to make things better. The insurance industry in Canada, they're not necessarily going to open their arms to you and invite you in, because a lot of them really, if they could build it and skip over you, they will. So they love the ideas. We've met with most of the insurance companies, and this interesting thing from one company, we went through the front door, and met with them, and no, we could build this ourselves. And then interestingly enough, we received a call from Toronto from a company saying, we've looked at your product, could we white label it? They named the insurance company, saying they've approached them looking for such a product. If we white labeled yours, we resell it. And then I also received a call from overseas, same kind of story,
Wow.
same insurance company. And so I said to the insurance company, I should have came to your loading dock rather than your front door. I mean, maybe would have got going a little faster kind of thing. But that's the one thing is, I've worked at the head office level. I mean, there's a lot of people that are always approaching them with ideas, and some of them they're really good. I mean, like there's no product there. It's a good presentation. If you give me 5 million, I'll create the product, right? And so that's what's got a lot of the industry players very standoffish. So, you know, that's where I basically said, well, we'll just keep plugging away on our own the way we would as a sales rep selling insurance. And let's just now do it Insurtech with insurance brokers and see where it goes, right? So
yeah, you know what? I love that story you just shared. And I often say this is an industry, insurance companies traditionally take years and sometimes decades to make decisions. And decisions have to be made faster, I think, in the times that we're in now. But it really will test your resolve and your commitment as a founder. Be prepared to hear no a lot. And sometimes you'll have to go after the same organization at multiple different layers and levels and angles. Like you said, I love the loading dock versus front door analogy. And the reality is in Canada, a lot of the insurers here are not Canadian-based parent companies. Some of them are, you know, UK-based, US-based, other foreign entities coming in or that have come in recently. And so you really need to, I think, study the organization, understand who the decision makers are. The reality is most decisions are not made by one person anymore. It's done by committee and multiple people involved
there's also one thing that we've discovered. There's a lot of people that are speaking on behalf of their CEOs. I don't think their CEOs actually know, or COOs, like whatever title it might be, the top tier. But I think a lot of them are unaware that there's different layers within their company speaking on their behalf. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I know, because I know, you know, a few of the guys at the top and of some of these organizations, and I know some of the feedback is not what they would have said in the conversation, kind of thing. So that's right. I think there's not a clear direction from the insurance industry as to what they're accepting. Right? It's all too unknown. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes that's by design too. Sometimes those gatekeepers are there to shield the C-suite decision makers, and you know, it's there by design. And so I think, you know, you have both dynamics that are kind of at play. The larger the company gets, I think the more exaggerated that is. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about Canada, because something that stands out here, Charlie, that's different about you and different about BeneOffice and your strategy is you seem to be very content with, you know, making this a long race or a long marathon, and you're not in a rush to just ramp this overnight. And I think, you know, there's two things going on there. Some, it's just over ambition. People want the overnight success. Other, it's just they have a very short runway and there's a cash burn with every startup company. And if you don't have other sources of revenue to keep you alive, sometimes that's what it comes down to. And that's where the sense of urgency comes from. But I would say because of those dynamics that are at play, that create that urgency with a lot of startups that don't have the marathon mindset, there is a vacuum. There's a brain drain going towards our neighbors to the south. And a lot of Canadian startups get swallowed up into the US market and do very well there. And I'm not against going into the US. I think it's a very wise thing to do, right? You have to do it right. And Canada's a great test bed. And sometimes we talk to another founder, you know, sometimes it's better to just start in the US if that's where you want to be ultimately. You know, it is the largest economy in the world still. And they are our closest neighbor and trading partner. But, you know, you seem to have done something differently here, and you seem to be content focusing on the Canadian market for now. have was there some temptation you had to resist to go south? Because do you think this same idea would have just flown off the shelf, so to speak, in the US market, just knowing the environment there?
So going into the US, because of the size of the market, and not having the personal relationships with all of the insurance companies, which we do have here.
Yeah.
And so that gives us some strength in Canada, is we're known and we know who exactly the people we're talking to. In the US, it would definitely require some substantial dollars, because there's already different players doing it in different ways there. It was just absent in Canada. That's what made Canada just so easy to sort of say, well, we haven't found the product. Let's just build it. Economically,
those are good reasons. Those are very good reasons. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, if you do the math, so one team that came in from an insurance company, they tried just shooting us down on our pricing structure. We're selling it too cheap and stuff like that. And their actuarials then said to them, boy, hopefully you didn't say to Charlie that, he's got this price too cheap. And they said, we did say that to him. And they said, yeah. And they did the math for this group. And they called me up to say, we're embarrassed, Charlie. You obviously did the math. So a little bit from a lot of people. There's a lot of people in Canada. There's a lot of end consumers. And so eventually, our next phase of revenue is building the My Robo, which is going to help each of the brokers using the system to be direct with the consumer. We see where the insurance industry is going. That's one part of their models that look like it's coming. Not all the carriers, like Equitable Life, very focused on broker only. But we want to make sure that whatever market the Canadian insurance companies are in, we're going to be right there alongside with them. And that's going to actually work with the agents that are working with us across the country, including the territories and that. And so it's all of Canada. So that's one of my objectives. Is doesn't matter where you're located. So
glad you mentioned the territories. We need to give them some love. They need some love.
That's right. I was amazed. We've heard from all of the areas, including the territories, and Nunavik. They actually have like 3 people that sell insurance, like up there for the employee benefits side of things. Yeah. Which, when I say that to an insurance company, most of them don't seem to care. But the thing is, so on a snowy day, BeneOffice will be there. Whereas a group rep might not make it in the snowstorm, even to Exeter, Ontario, maybe. Right. So,
that's a good feather to have in your cap, right? For sure. What do you want to be when your customers talk about you, and the target customer here is the broker? What do you want them to say about BeneOffice?
So basically, reliability, a reliable tool, right, and something that helps them to make money and better lifestyle for their whole team, because they're able to process the administrative part of the work, and it's not taking away anybody's role, but able to be able to do more faster. With the aging population of the insurance agents in our industry, which is big number, every broker is going to be required. And that's why the insurance industry is probably looking so much. Do they need to go direct? Is there going to be enough agents? So what we want to be able to do is take it where, a single broker could handle up to 1,000 accounts, and right. We know that it can. We know that our system's doing that currently. So that's the other thing, is make them be able to survive what's coming and not overwork, right? So
okay, yeah, that's a great thing to be known for. So if someone watching this podcast or listening wants to learn more about you, you're getting the word out. You mentioned the following you have on LinkedIn. What's the best way to find you and to learn more about BeneOffice?
So the website is definitely one. There's a contact page there. Yeah. And we're very soon going to be breaking down a little bit more by type of broker or insurance company, what the services available specifically to them is. Okay. Right. Yeah. The other thing is the social media. LinkedIn is the key one, that if they connect through there, which I think that's how you and I probably met originally. Yeah. That we have it monitored, not 24 hours a day, but darn close. Right. Yeah. So
pretty responsive.
Some brokers work quite the hours, and so far our team's been able to reach out and communicate with them through that channel as well. So yeah.
And, like a lot of founders, you've walked a mile in your customer's shoes, probably enough miles to wear out the soles.
Yeah.
So that gives you a lot of credibility. I love what you're doing at BeneOffice, Charlie. And I really look forward to sitting down with you in 12 months from now and hearing about all of your successes. And this is another great Canadian success story. So thanks again for sitting down with me today. Any closing thoughts from you before we wrap up?
No, I just, you know what, I really appreciate what you're doing. You know what I mean? That, focusing on the Canadian market specifically, anything like that is helping Canada. It's also helping people breaking into the Insurtech field, which can be lonely. If nobody's reaching out to them like what you're doing, kind of thing. And it helps more network together. So compliments to what you're doing. It's not an easy role either, what you're doing, right? So
well, thank you. And if I can help a founder achieve their success and their goals, then we've done our part. And I'm a proud Canadian. I often say on this program that I'm a patriot, and we're known as a follower nation and for being polite. And I think we need to be known as a global leader. I think we need to start stepping up and maybe not be so modest. We can still be humble, but we deserve a seat at the table. And I believe there's lots of leaders and there's no shortage of great ideas in Canada. So our job is to shine a light on those. So thanks again, Charlie, for being one of those leaders and for what you're doing. Really appreciate it.